Well, hello, Wheatley Baptist Church family and others of you that may be stumbling across our weekly update video. I'm Pastor Dave from Wheatley Baptist Church, and I just wanted to bring you up to speed on lots that's going on this week at Wheatley Baptist Church. A few of those things really center around the preparatory work we're doing for our anniversary service. Did you know that? Our anniversary service is this Sunday. May 31st. 139 years there's been a Wheatley Baptist Church. And when we think about church anniversaries, often it's a time for reflection and certainly to give all the glory and all the thanks to God for His love and His kindness and His provision through the years. But as we look back, I also think it's important to us to learn from our past, to trust God in the present, and certainly we're in a time where we need to be doing that. But I think almost more so than the past, into the future, we need to be thinking about discerning, praying, and trusting God as our future unfolds, especially in a time that doesn't seem so certain at all. That makes me think about a passage in the book of Acts. One that's probably very familiar to you about the early church and things that they did together, because for them it was a time of real uncertainty as well. Let me read this is Acts chapter 2. I'm going to read verse 42 to 47. It's called the Fellowship of Believers. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. As much as an anniversary time can certainly be a time for reflection, it's certainly not a time for us to rest on our laurels. And I think that's really true in this current season that we find ourselves in. It might be easy for us to say, well, the church building's closed and the community around us is still largely closed, and so we just kind of sit on our laurels and see how this all works out. And I tell you, this is the time, and so many of you are stepping up into this right now. This is the time to stay relevant, to stay vibrant. We had over 1,000 people checked into our service this past Sunday. Several hundred of them actually watched a great deal of it. That's absolutely amazing to think about that. And so, in order for us to kind of think and be relevant and think and be vibrant and be healthy as a church, there's some practices that we see showing up in this early fellowship of believers. Prayer, for sure, I think has to be right at the top of the list. A praying church is a powerful church, and we have a long legacy of prayer in this church. It's one of the things I appreciate so much about this community of faith. The very church at Philippi was founded out of prayer. It was born out of prayer. We've studied that together. It's important that we continue to pray as a church, as many of you are doing that. We need to be encouraging. The Apostle Paul believes so strongly in mutual encouragement to the extent that he really, you can read this in the book of Thessalonians, he really exhorted the Thessalonians 3 times in his letter over and over again to make sure that they're encouraging, being intentional about encouraging one another. We can do so by words for sure, but I'll tell you, and I have seen so many examples of this in the past 6 or 7 weeks since we've been shut down. These simple acts of love, dropping a note, making a phone call, some of you that are able, stepping out, serving, like you've seen this wonderful miracle go on through our food bank and in our community, right? Simply empathizing with how people are feeling. Those are important acts. And Paul also says that when we encourage somebody, we're also giving them support. right? But to be honest with you, support usually shows up in more concrete ways than encouragement. You know, we're studying the book of James right now, and James especially gives lots of example about people who gave words of encouragement but kind of stopped there. It's the people, remember, faith by doing. It's the people that actually took God's word, listened to it, and then did some action that really showed people support. And that's something that's, I think, going to be increasingly important for us as a community of faith in the coming weeks and months. And again, I think you're just absolutely equipped and have shown your ability to be able to do that, to be faithful in that. And so thank you very much for that. I wanted to share those words for you as you just think about 139 years of Wheatley Baptist Church. Hey, I do have some specific announcements that I want to share with you as well. So you should have all received a survey via email. If you haven't, please reach out to me right away and I'll get you connected with that. And a number of you, I think at this time of me doing this video, 18 of you have already responded to that survey. So thank you very much for that. But we're going to leave that open for the week. And just as a reminder, that's really around how you feel and how you may be able to give us some feedback around the reopening of the church building. So I just remind you about that. Also, the business of the church and the business of some of our church associations continues to go on too. So we're a member of the Western Association of Canadian Baptists of Ontario and Quebec, and their annual meeting is June the 9th. And so they're planning to go forward with that. It'll be by video conference on Zoom. And so we're just wondering if there's anybody that's a member of Wheatley Baptist Church, if you'd be interested in being a delegate there, if you'd just get in touch with me directly by email or at the church office, and we'll get that organized for you. Don't worry about the Zoom thing. We can help you sort that out. But if you're interested in representing Wheatley Baptist Church at the association, just to make sure we have a relevant presence at the Western Association annual meeting, that would be great. And so thank you for considering that. Additionally, just as normal, we have our Bible study this Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. And we're actually starting a new study. So if you've not actually jumped into that before, this might be a good one for you to consider. We're going to study through the book of James. So now we're using that during our Sunday services, our worship time, but we're going to do a much more in-depth study. And as well, you've heard me say that that's wisdom literature. Well, there's also some great wisdom literature in the Old Testament as well. And so we're going to kind of do a parallel study with the book of Proverbs, or certain segments of the book of Proverbs that really tie into our study with the New Testament book of James. So again, if you've got some issues or concerns about, we're doing that through Zoom. If you've got some concerns about that, let me know. We can get you hooked up. We generally have 12 to 14 people. Sometimes a few less than that, and sometimes a very good number as well. So please, we'd love for you to join us and study. And so if you want to go a little more in depth into what we're talking about at our message each Sunday morning, that's a good opportunity to do that. We have our prayer night, a community prayer night. You can find that on Facebook on Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. And again, some of you have been really good about shooting me some ideas for prayers to add into that service. And so if you've got some ideas about that, please forward those to me. I'd be very happy to include that. And then just lastly, I said it's our anniversary service this Sunday. We've got a few surprises for you in that, so I just encourage you to make sure you make that a priority this weekend. We're going to continue on with our James series, but it's Pentecost Sunday and it's Anniversary Sunday, and so that gives a pastor like me lots of opportunity to find some things to build into that service. And so we're going to do just that. I hope you find it to be very beneficial and very fruitful for the investment of time that you make there. Friends, I just want to say in closing, thank you so much for the words of encouragement. Those first few surveys that came back. You've been very encouraging to me and very encouraging to our leadership group here too. I'm just in the process of sharing some of those with them. Thank you for the encouragement that you are giving to us. We can't wait to be back together in community. We can't wait to actually in person be the fellowship of believers that we all feel that we should be and that we all miss. God's blessing to you on this week, and I can't wait to worship with you on Sunday. Have a great week.